The front desk clerk looked directly into Malik Carter's eyes and told him there were no rooms available, even though Malik could see his own name glowing across the reservation screen behind her. What happened next left the entire hotel silent. Malik was standing there with his 8-year-old daughter beside him, holding a small purple backpack, both exhausted after driving through a storm for nearly 5 hours. He had come to his own hotel hoping for nothing more than a quiet room, a warm shower, and one peaceful night with his little girl. Instead, the security guard was called, the manager accused him of trying to scam the hotel, and his daughter watched the humiliation unfold with tears filling her eyes. Before we continue, take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who believes people deserve kindness, and subscribe to Kindness Legacy. Leave a comment telling us whether you believe everyone deserves a second chance, because sometimes one simple act of kindness can change a life forever. Malik Carter had built the Horizon Crown Hotel from the ground up, though very few people knew the story behind the polished marble floors and sparkling chandeliers. 10 years earlier, he had been sleeping in a small rented apartment with his infant daughter, Amara, after losing nearly everything following a failed business partnership. He had taken night shifts, delivered food during the day, and studied hotel management whenever his daughter slept. He remembered carrying her in one arm while answering business calls with the other, promising himself that someday she would never have to wonder where her next meal would come from. His first hotel had opened with only 32 rooms and one old reception desk. Malik cleaned bathrooms himself, repaired broken sinks, changed sheets, and greeted every guest personally. Over time, that little hotel became the foundation of a growing hospitality company. The Horizon Crown was now a luxury property in the heart of the city, a 14-story building filled with expensive artwork, executive suites, restaurants, and conference halls. Malik had never forgotten where he came from, which was why he made a strange rule at every hotel he owned: treat every guest the way you would want your own family treated. On that rainy Tuesday afternoon, Malik had been attending a charity event across the city with Amara when an unexpected mechanical problem forced him to stop driving. The rain had become heavier, traffic had nearly stopped, and Amara was beginning to feel sick from the long journey. Malik decided it would be easier to stay at the Horizon Crown rather than drive another hour home. He had not planned to announce his arrival. In fact, he often visited his hotels without informing staff because he wanted to see how ordinary guests were treated when no one knew the owner was watching. He walked into the lobby wearing a plain charcoal jacket, faded jeans, and old sneakers. His daughter followed closely, carrying her little backpack and a stuffed rabbit with one ear permanently bent from years of love. Malik smiled at the familiar surroundings, but within seconds, something felt different. The receptionist, a woman named Tessa Ward, looked him up and down before asking for identification. Malik calmly gave her his name and reservation details, explaining that the room had been booked under his private account. Tessa typed his name into the system and immediately frowned. She glanced at another employee behind her, then back at Malik. Without explaining anything, she told him the reservation could not be honored. Malik assumed there had been a computer error and politely asked her to check again. Instead, Tessa said the hotel was fully booked and suggested that he try a motel several miles away. Malik looked at the screen and noticed several rooms still marked as available. He pointed this out, but Tessa quickly minimized the booking window. She told him those rooms were reserved for higher priority guests. Malik asked what that meant, and the receptionist replied that she could not discuss hotel policy with someone who appeared to be trying to secure a room without proper authorization. The words struck him harder than the storm outside. Amara looked up at her father, confused by the tension. Malik knelt beside her and gently told her everything was going to be okay. That should have been the end of it. Instead, the front desk supervisor, Grant Holloway, arrived and immediately assumed Malik was causing trouble. Grant spoke with the practiced confidence of someone who had spent years believing his position made him untouchable. He asked Malik to leave the lobby unless he could prove that he had a legitimate reason to be there. Malik presented his identification again, but Grant barely looked at it. He claimed the identification could have been stolen and said that people sometimes tried to impersonate wealthy guests to gain access to luxury properties. The security guard approached slowly, watching Malik as if he were dangerous. Amara moved closer to her father and held the side of his jacket. Malik could feel his anger rising, but he refused to let his daughter see him lose control. He had spent his entire life learning how to remain calm in moments when other people expected him to become angry. He knew what assumptions looked like. He knew the quiet judgment in someone's eyes when they decided what kind of man you were before hearing your story. But that night, standing inside a building he had personally designed, he realized he was being treated like a stranger in his own home. Malik finally asked Grant one simple question: whether the hotel had a policy that denied rooms based on appearance. Grant immediately rejected the accusation and insisted that Malik was making the situation uncomfortable. He told the security guard to escort him outside. Amara began crying, asking her father why they were being kicked out. Malik's heart cracked at the sound of her voice. He bent down, held her face gently between his hands, and told her that sometimes people make unfair decisions because they do not take the time to understand someone. He promised her they would be okay, even though for the first time in years, Malik was not sure what he wanted to do next. Then the elevator doors opened. A woman in a cream-colored business suit stepped into the lobby carrying a folder filled with documents. Her name was Serena Vale, the hotel's regional operations director. She had worked with Malik for 6 years and knew every major detail of the company. When she saw Malik standing beside the security guard with his daughter, her expression changed instantly. She looked at the front desk, then at Grant, then at Tessa. Serena did not need to ask what had happened. The silence itself told her everything. She walked directly toward Malik and addressed him as the owner. The lobby froze. Tessa's face went pale. Grant's confidence disappeared. The security guard immediately stepped backward. Several guests stopped pretending not to listen. Amara looked up at her father with wide eyes, finally realizing that the man everyone had just treated as an intruder was the person who owned the entire building. Malik could have fired everyone immediately. He could have called lawyers, ended careers, and ordered a public investigation. But when he looked at his daughter, he remembered the lesson he had spent years teaching her. Power was not about making people afraid of you. It was about deciding what kind of person you would become when you had the ability to hurt someone back. Still, accountability mattered. Malik asked Serena to review the security footage and the hotel's procedures. The footage showed that several rooms had been available. It also showed Tessa dismissing Malik before verifying his reservation and Grant escalating the situation without checking ownership records. Even worse, Serena discovered that employees had received informal instructions from Grant to be extra cautious with certain guests who did not fit the image of wealthy travelers. Those instructions had never been approved by Malik or corporate management. Malik was devastated. Not because a receptionist had embarrassed him, but because his own hotel had become a place where someone could be judged before being welcomed. The next morning, Malik called a private staff meeting. Employees gathered in the grand ballroom, expecting punishment. Instead, Malik walked to the front of the room with Amara sitting quietly in the first row. He told them about his first hotel, the nights he cleaned rooms himself, the times people laughed at his ambitions, and the years he spent wondering whether his daughter would ever live the life he dreamed of giving her. He explained that he had intentionally built his hotels to represent dignity, opportunity, and belonging. He did not excuse what had happened the night before, but he refused to turn the meeting into a spectacle of revenge. Tessa and Grant were fired immediately for violating company policy and mistreating a guest. Malik also ordered an independent review of the hotel's hiring, training, and guest service practices. Every employee was required to attend a new training program focused on respectful treatment, bias awareness, and equal service. Then Malik did something nobody expected. He asked Tessa to meet him privately. She arrived with tears in her eyes and an apology she could barely finish. She admitted that she had judged him the moment he walked through the door. She said she had made assumptions without knowing anything about him and had been too proud to admit she was wrong. Malik listened silently. He did not rehire her. But he gave her something more powerful than anger. He gave her accountability and a recommendation for a different customer service job, provided she completed the training he required. He told her that losing her position should teach her something, not destroy her life. Tessa broke down crying, realizing that the same man she had humiliated had chosen to respond with dignity. Weeks later, the Horizon Crown looked the same from the outside, but something inside it had changed. Staff members began greeting every guest with greater care. The hotel launched a new policy called the Welcome Promise, guaranteeing that every visitor would be treated with respect regardless of appearance, background, or financial status. Malik personally trained new employees whenever his schedule allowed. One afternoon, he brought Amara to the lobby. She looked around at the enormous chandeliers and polished floors and asked her father if he still felt angry about that night. Malik smiled and told her that he had been hurt, but he did not want anger to become the story they remembered. He wanted the lesson to become the story. Amara hugged him tightly and whispered that she was proud of him. For Malik, that was worth more than every hotel he would ever own. The story of the black single dad who had been denied a room in his own hotel eventually traveled far beyond the city. But what people remembered most was not the humiliation. They remembered what came after it. Malik had been given every reason to become bitter, yet he chose to build something better. He understood that dignity was not something a person should have to earn by wearing expensive clothes or carrying a famous name. Every human being deserved to walk through a door without being judged before they had the chance to speak. And sometimes, the strongest response to disrespect is not revenge. It is changing the place where the disrespect happened so nobody else has to experience it. If this story touched your heart, please support this video with a like, share it with your family and friends, and subscribe to Kindness Legacy. Your support helps us continue sharing stories about courage, compassion, second chances, and the quiet strength it takes to choose kindness when anger would be easier. And before we end, here is a special request. Comment the word dignity if you believe every person deserves to be treated with respect, no matter how they look, what they wear, or where they come from. Because in the end, Malik did not prove his worth by showing everyone that he owned the hotel. He proved it by showing everyone what true ownership of your character looks like. And long after the rain stopped falling outside the Horizon Crown, one truth remained shining brighter than every chandelier in the building: a person's value should never be measured by the way they arrive at the door, but by the heart they carry when they walk through it.